At this time, I would like to ask the minister of North Pulaski United Methodist Church, Lenny Daniels, to come forward and lead us in our prayer.
Creator of the world and the one who loves each of us more than we can ever imagine, we pause to remind ourselves that we live all of life in your sacred presence. We place this council under your overarching model of justice for all, as this council proceeds in their business of providing leadership for this great city. We look to your presence to enable this council to promote a safe place for all people. May this council lead this city in creating safety in our streets and in all our neighborhoods. We long for you to implant in the city council members' hearts and minds of ways of welcome. Assist this city council in continuing to make Sherwood a welcoming city.
And this goes, I think, several years back on some of this. We are not a for-profit organization, and I think we have probably extended a little bit too much trying to maybe help our community out, our parents, and but we, from this year forward, we are moving forward, that we have guidelines and we have increased those and tightened them up, and we are going to enforce those.
Okay. So do all the parents who participate in that program, I mean, they have a copy of the policy that says, hey, if you're, delinquent, you're not to participate in the program. I mean, that's not unknown, right?
No, it's not.
A new one went out at the beginning of the year this year, I think. The new policy went out. So I got a copy.
Yes, and to respond to some things, there was a new policy. We made some revisions, but it's been revamped again. Sonny, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you have anything you want to come to the podium and add on that? Just
I've tried to answer any and all your questions. One of yours that you just brought up, Charlie, about people being behind maybe the 2-week period, then that's the reason why we thought maybe a 1-week draft, like everybody else, would be efficient instead of being 2 weeks behind. They only, once we find out from City Hall that somebody's behind, then we'll get them a notice and put them out of the program. So we would just follow other guidelines from other people around us in the area that had daycare. So, but as the mayor said, we did go through our procedures and our policies and clean those up 100%. And if you get 1 day behind now, or when we get the notice on Friday, you'll get a notice when you come to the front desk to pick up your child that you're behind. We'll give you a day or two, and then after that, then we put you out of the program. We've been humanized, we're humans, and most people, if you tell them they're behind a little bit, then they usually come in and make compensation, and they pay up. We do realize people go from week to week, and again, we have to run this just like you would any other full-fledged daycare, and we're not going to be lenient anymore. So when you get behind, we hate to say it, we're going to put you out of the program. But the state auditors brought some of that stuff to our attention, and we changed it up, and we feel that's very comfortable during this process. We are at full capacity right now for after school at 90 kids. This last summer we had 150 was at full capacity. By going to this draft, one, it'll alleviate some problems for us, trying to collect some of the money. But we also feel like majority of the people that have young kids, my son and my daughter-in-law, they all do the draft. And that's the younger generation. That's what they do. Me, I don't. I do everything by credit card. But the younger generations are used to doing that. So this is one thing that was recommended by the auditors, and that's why we did it. Can't make it more mandatory, but we were encouraging you to do it that way.
I think it will eliminate some manpower. Currently, people make their payment at the facility, at the Bill Harmon Rec Center.
We were doing everything without computer and everything else, doing things by hand, and the young man that runs that program spent numerous hours. I mean, that's all he did was trying to keep up with, that, because you got to have your taxes at the end of the year, taking care of that. So by doing some of the rules and regulations we changed, it just makes it a lot easier for us to be able to say sorry or whatever the case may be, what the auditors brought to us. So we've cleaned it, and I think it's very sufficient. I think the people in the program, they'll accept it. We hope they accept it. We don't want anybody to leave, but if they do, we already have a waiting list we can go to. I mean, the program's a good program.
Right. It's an excellent program.
So we're very proud of it, and the city's very proud of it.
Yeah, I think the bank draft's a good idea. I mean, the only reason I carry a checkbook is to pay this, and the only checks that come out of my checkbook is to pay this when I pick up Micah to write this weekly check.
We've been working on this for probably 7 or 8 months when it was brought to our attention to the auditor. So this is something that staff has worked very diligently with. Angela and the mayor's been informed in the loop here, and everybody else on staff. So we think we've got a hold of what we need to do to make the program even better for the future.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Are there any more questions or comments? Do we need a motion?
Do you have to approve this thing?
Are there any more questions or comments? Hearing none. We're going to take committees and or commissions. Advertising and Promotion Commission.
We were unable to meet last month, but we will meet first Wednesday in October, which is next week, I believe.
Thank you. Civil Service Commission. Parks and Recreation Committee.
I'm thinking we met, but I don't remember seeing the minutes. We're not in here. We met. The minutes should be in your packet. We did meet, didn't we?
We did.
Okay.
We did. It's in
I'm
there.
getting old. I'm sorry. We met.
We talked about
We talked to the progress of all the project, the splash pad and the tennis courts and the soccer fields. And there should be minutes in here somewhere, but this agenda's so big, I've gotten lost with it. If anybody has any questions, if there's not minutes in there and you've got any questions, feel free to ask me. Otherwise, the next meeting should have, we do have a meeting this month. They're here. We do have a meeting this month. I know Sonny said we have a meeting this month. It will be the second Monday of the month at 6 o'clock at the Bill Harmon Rec Center.
Very good. Thank you. Personnel Committee.
Yeah, we had a quick meeting last week. The minutes are not in your packet. We'll be meeting again on the 4th, so there will be all those will be prepared for next month. We will meet on the 4th at 5:30 at Bill Harmon Rec Center.
Thank you. Take the agenda.
An ordinance amending ordinance 729, known as the Sherwood zoning regulations with respect to planned unit development zoning, repealing conflicting ordinances and for other purposes.
Mr. Zarituta.
Yeah, that's the third reading.
This is for the planned unit development, right?
Yes.
Kind of to reiterate, bring back old history on this. We first introduced this to you back in March, and several of you had comments and suggestions on the thing, which we appreciated. I think it made it a better product. I apologize for the quality of the materials you've gotten in the last couple of months. Hopefully this last round made it a little bit easier to see. And to summarize, what we currently have in the regulations was very limiting. It wasn't used very much because basically it said the only things that you can do in a planned unit development, if it's commercial, it has to be eligible under C2 and a couple of the residentials. So it wasn't used very much and it wasn't very practical. We asked our planning consultant to draft a revised version based on his experience, and it's basically two parts. One is standards and the second is process. And when they first introduced it, one of my concerns was that it was, in my mind, a little bit weak on the criteria for what would constitute a valid commercial planned unit development, because I didn't want to see too many instances where somebody tried to wire around the existing zoning code just in order to do this. And I'm satisfied that it gave us some criteria that I think we can use. I think in the final analysis, when you look at all of this, that it has to go a vetting process. First place, it has to get by staff. It has to meet all the requirements that are built in this rather extensive requirement list. Second, it has to get by the planning commission, who has to vet it in the same way. And in the third case, it has to get past the city council because this is a zone. It's not like the normal zone, which is established on the front end with criteria and standards. This is a zone by agreement between a developer or property owner and the city. And it has to be exactly precisely what they can do and what we will allow. And one of the problems developing a planned unit development ordinance is that you're looking for some innovation and some creativity that you can't get out of the ordinary application of the zoning regulations. And we don't know what that might look like. So we're looking at something unknown, quite frankly. Probably most developers would rather stick with what they know, what's the standards of the regular zoning. But if somebody wants to get creative and do something that benefits the city and looks better than the standard development that we might get otherwise, we want to consider it. But we want to protect ourselves in doing that. It's been written so that its format would immediately go into the proposed zoning code. I'd be glad to answer any questions or try to.
Not really a question, just a comment. I personally like the planned use district format. It's used in a lot of other progressive cities that look for innovation and progressiveness. And I appreciate the work you and the planning committee have put into putting this together. Thank you.
One of the things that has come up repeatedly during the planning of the visioning process, we're trying to work on the plan for the city, is that there's some sentiment that wouldn't it be nice if we couldn't get some mixed use development in the community instead of being so segregated by uses, this over here, this here, this here.
Amen.
And this would allow that to happen. Hopefully it will encourage it to happen.
Any more questions or comments? Move for the adoption.
Second.
Lily,
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Keplinger.
Aye.
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 Brooks.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
McMahon.
Aye.
Sanders.
And ordinance amending and
Just a
super.
moment, please.
Sorry.
There has been a request for, would we consider emergency clause? I would
It's
say,
not on there.
I know it's not on there, but it's been read several times. It's been carrying on for several months. I think it's only kind of fair to those who have been patiently waiting on the sidelines for us to get this in the format we want to consider a emergency clause for them.
I don't think we
So who do we have that's waiting on the passage of this ordinance? I mean,
Gentlemen
isn't
out
that
in the
what buys
audience,
them 30 days, right? I mean,
there's some sale of property that's being,
Yeah.
to my understanding.
We've asked him to consider this, and then we've gone over it, and he has been very patient, and the seller of the property has been very patient. So
Well, he
I
can't.
agree, but
I mean, he can start the process now under it, and by the time it's going to be law in 30 days. He can start the process. He can start the application process and everything now. What can he not do?
Are you aware of anything, Mr. Middleton?
I don't know anything in particular.
I'm not opposed to the party addressing the council if you would like to, that reached out.
We're not going to vote.
I guess the question is, if it's not an emergency, would there be any other delay for him? I guess.
Well, that's what they were just asking.
My name is Michael Hall. I'm the developer in question. My question is, can I go ahead and submit now without the clause during my 30 days? My understanding was I had to wait till it was in effect to even submit it.
We have to wait 30 days to vote and zone something of this, but he doesn't have to wait 30 days to.
No, it wouldn't come up until next month anyway.
Correct. But I didn't know if I'd be restricted to.
I think he can submit.
No problem with submitting.
Okay.
There's no problem with submitting.
Hey, you got your answer. That's all
I'm
you
happy
need.
with that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Ready to move on?
Sure, thank you.
An ordinance amending and superseding Title 14 of the Sherwood Municipal Code, adopting a digital zoning code, repealing conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes.
This puppy has been a long time birthing. I think I may be repeating myself a little bit. They were in several different places, and rather than having it in several places, we put it in one place. And that basically is the total number of changes that got made to exist to this. And I'll say it again, that there are other problems with the current regulations that need to be fixed. My sense is that that would be a good thing to do after we have finished our planning study. Should be driving. So hopefully we get this done, we can start to work and do.
Yeah, I want to say I've looked at this, Rob, and I think it's really an excellent outlay for this to get started with for sure. Looks good.
And whoever Mr. Jeff is that you mentioned, kudos to him.
Yes.
Jeff, whoever you said, see someone in the audience that we should have stand and thank him.
Jeff, is that one of you guys?
I don't think he's here.
Is he here?
10 square feet, simply by adding
That's nice.
0.01 acre to it. It goes from 850 square feet to 1,110 square feet, and that's what I was talking about the arbitrary nature of those numbers. But I don't think there's anything we can do about that. So I make a motion that we amend the ordinance as requested.
Second.
Lilly,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
Keplinger,
Aye.
aye. Aye. Brooks, aye. Williams, aye. McMahon,
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And ordinance amending and superseding Title 14 of the
Wait.
Sherwood.
There's a few more. We didn't have
We have
adopted
we have to vote on this amendment.
An ordinance amending and superseding Title 14 of the Sherwood Municipal Code, adopting a digital zoning code, repealing conflicting ordinances, and for the purposes as amended.
So would that be the first reading of the?
Well, you've waived the reading requirement tonight, so you can pass it with one.
Well, we just voted on the amendment, right? I moved
Yes.
to amend it, and we voted on the amendment.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
I
sorry.
move for the adoption as amended.
Well, we haven't finished with all of his changes yet.
Yeah, that's just
But he-
one. It's one amendment.
Yeah.
That was the only amendment I have in my records. For a second amendment. Well,
No, we haven't heard all his comments yet. He said he.
oh, okay.
There's more.
only a few more comments, and the rest are basically pretty small. What I've given you are basically the four major changes to this, and I'll read them again. It's the overlay districts, the driveway standards, the accessory structure, and the planned unit development. Those were the major changes in the current regulations for zoning. Also put a placeholder in there for a possible future unnamed addition to the code. And I'll be honest with you, it's pretty typical and common for sign regulations to be part of the zoning code. So I've left a placeholder for it or something else that might want to come in.
Make a motion. We accept the ordinance.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Keplinger. Aye. Brooks. Aye. Williams. Aye. McMahon.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Senior Citizens Committee, Sewer Committee, Street Committee.
Street committee did meet. Minutes are in your packet. Richard and company continue to drive forward to be prepared for, the incoming of our tax money that was recently passed. I did, want to share with this council that I think in order to engage the RDOT on the intersection at 67, 167 in Brockington, we have to enter or have to request that engagement, which would be a formal letter to RDOT to do that. And I think that's something that we either have to have, signed by the mayor or has to be approved by the city council. I'm not sure what the exact rules are there, but that is something that we will be looking at and entertaining over the next, 30 days or so.
Has that been done yet?
Richard is working on that. That it came before the street committee and was discussed, my understanding is last time. But he is very much aware that we need to move forward with that.
Can you talk a little bit too about the potential opportunities we have with that section that will be coming up, Mayor? With State Highway Department looking for potential projects
I'm not sure what you're referring to. You
through
said the intersection.
Right, the section between Keel and 67-167 in terms of timeline and so forth, proposal with the State Highway Department.
I don't have any information to bring forward on that. We have not given them official request to move forward on it.
Okay, it was my understanding that
That's
they're
something
looking
I've
at projects.
forgotten. If Richard was here, he could probably confirm that whether we have or have not, but he is at a mandatory meeting tonight. But we can get back with you on that.
Thank you.
Ready for item 9?
Pardon?
Are you ready for item 9?
Uh-huh.
An ordinance amending the Sherwood City sign ordinance regarding appeals of staff decisions regarding application for signs for other purposes. I think Councilmember Harmon has a amendment to offer.
Yeah, I visited with Steve this week about my concerns on this ordinance, and I think we came up with a compromise. And I've talked to Chairman Middleton about this too. That if we amend this to say any denial by staff of any sign application may be appealed upon written request to the City Council, who may affirm the denial, approve the application, or approve with modifications, and then delete the last sentence. That would be my motion for an amendment. Then, when the sign ordinance is adopted, make the sign ordinance part of the zoning ordinance. At that point, we could hand over those variance applications to the Board of Variance and let the Board of Variance handle those questions at that point, and they would fall under the Board of Variance statute and the zoning statute in the state statute, which puts the parameters in there that variances have to be granted only based on the unique nature or peculiarities of the particular lot and things of that nature. So,
Mayor, this question is that it seems like the engineer was seeking this permission to do this because of the delay, that he could actually review it and see if it actually started any rolling of exceptions that had to be done, or if it's going to be an isolated incident. So
I checked, and this is the one sign situation we've had come up in eons. It doesn't happen. This doesn't happen very often at all. This the ash sign is the one time this has come up in ages. So it's not like this is
I knew that's the purpose of it. I didn't.
Yeah, this is not a situation that comes up on a frequent basis, and it's just it's like I said last time. The state statute grants one situation where and I'm going to use the word law because when we pass an ordinance, it is the law, where the laws that we pass, a variance or an exception to the adherence to that law can be granted, and that's the Board of Variance granting exceptions to the zoning ordinance. And if we start saying, well, okay, for the sign ordinance, we're going to allow this Board of Sign Appeals to grant variances to that, then there's no reason for dog lovers to come up and say, well, we want a board of appeals for the animal control ordinance, and then we want a board of appeals for this ordinance and that, this. So I just, I think it's just a can that doesn't need to be opened personally, and I think it's better to just stick with the state statute and leave with the Board of Variance and the zoning ordinance. Slippery slope.
Yeah, I also agree in that at least these decisions for the time being, we have to answer to the citizens versus a committee, nobody answers to the citizens. I'd like to second the motion.
You have a motion and a second to amend the ordinance.
Okay. Lilly?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Keplinger?
Aye.
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 Brooks? Aye. Williams?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Sanders?
An ordinance amending the Sherwood City sign ordinance regarding appeals of staff decisions regarding the application for signs and for other purposes as amended.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Lilly?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Keplinger?
Aye.
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 Brooks? Aye. Williams?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Sanders?
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a renewal interlocal agreement recognizing and continuing Rock Region Metropolitan Transit Authority and for other purposes.
Question.
I'll look through this. This is just the agreement. Is the amount of our subsidy changed any?
We do not have any new numbers on that. This is really the name change.
Right.
And they changed names a couple of years ago, and it just come to their attention that we had not formally changed the name.
Okay, so
from
there's
Central Arkansas
nothing,
Transit.
there's nothing in here.
That's my understanding, isn't you're a city attorney?
I don't know to the contrary. All I've seen is the document that they've sent that we've got included here.
Well, and that's what I was reading over also, but I know they were talking about recently in the news about there needing a higher subsidy. I want to make sure there's.
When the new director came in recently, they could not find record that we had formally recognized their name change.
Okay.
It's my understanding of it.
Move for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Lily?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Keplinger?
Aye.
Aye.
Brooks?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. An ordinance certifying to the Pulaski County Clerk the rate of taxation to be levied by the City of Sherwood, Arkansas on the taxable real and personal property for tax year 2018, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
And this is an annual ordinance that we are required to file with the county based upon the tax levy that we have for the Amy Sanders Library.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Lily?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Keplinger?
Aye.
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 Brooks? Aye. Williams?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
There is an emergency clause.
Lily?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Keplinger?
Aye.
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 Brooks?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
McMahon?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Mayor, that is the agenda.
Is there any old business? Under new business, I believe that our city attorney is going to address us regarding special meeting.
We need to have a special meeting on the bond ordinance, and bond counsel and underwriters have requested that we have a special meeting on October the 11th at 6 o'clock. And I want to say, Tim, I don't know if I've heard from you if that's going to work for you. But
Yeah,
you're on.
I had sent a thing out. I
Okay,
did.
and that's Alderman, I'm sorry, Councilmember Lilly's committee meets at that time, and so we're asking for a pause, I guess, in the action in the committee meeting for the city council to actually meet and take up the bond ordinance and take up the question of waste management and the rate changes.
So we're going to have the meeting here or where they meet?
We would have the meeting here.
Okay.
Is that okay, Kevin?
Yeah, that's fine by me. I mean, we meet at 5:30. We could very well be done with street committee business by 6 o'clock. That's not very common, but it could happen. But if it doesn't, then we can suspend our agenda and carry forward and then pick it back up. That's fine.
So it would be October the 11th at 6. Yeah. Can everybody come except Alderman Williams?
Abstain.
We got to have, this is a special meeting, obviously we got to have 6. Okay. And just for the record then, I just want to read that the bond ordinance authorizes the sale and issuance of bonds, provides for the terms and conditions of issuance, pledges the sales and use tax to the repayment of the principal and interest on the bonds, appoints a trustee on the bonds, approves certain other bond documents for other purposes. That's just going to be the purpose of the bond ordinance for that meeting. And as I said previously, we'll take up the waste management rate question. Thank you.
For your time frame, thank you. Is there any more new business? In the way of announcements, the Human Resources Department has asked that we remind that our employee annual health and wellness fair, free health checks and flu shots is 10 to 1 Recreation Center. That date one more time. October 25th. All right, thank you. Sherwood Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association continues to receive donations from On the Border as well as Papa Murphy's, and there's several dates in there that you can refer to. Sherwood Animal Service Shelter events, there are several listed there, including World Rabies Day, September 28th. Remember to vaccinate and license your pet. October Adopt a Shelter Dog Month, $25 adoptions of dogs and puppies all month. National Black Dog Day, October 1st, free adoptions of all black dogs. National Feral Cat Day, October 16th, free year-round trap, neuter, return program, and barn cat program for feral cats. Halloween free adoption event, October 31st. Keep Sherwood Beautiful events, the Great Arkansas Cleanup in Sherwood will be October 6th, 2016. Meet at Sherwood Senior, huh? Oh, 2018, you had 6, I'm sorry. Meet at Sherwood Senior Citizen Center at 8:30. Shredathon will be October the 20th, 2018, 9 a.m. to noon at the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Highway 107. It will begin at 9 o'clock. If the truck is full before 9 o'clock, it'll end.
It'll leave.
It will leave in your recyclables.
And Sherwood Fest, Sherwood Fest is not on here?
Yeah, I've got a note here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Sherwood Fest, I think that's our big festival we have every year. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. The committee's been working very hard on it. The last Saturday in September 2018 and
29th.
This Saturday, it's coming up. The 29th. It starts out with a Sherwood Rotary 5K run, and we need some more entrants for that. We'd love to have you. Miss Councilwoman Williams will be happy to handle that.
Great T-shirts.
Nice T-shirts. Lots of events, contests, musical acts, dance acts, vendors, great food. We have rides, $5 armbands. So please plan to spend your Saturday at Sherwood Forest.
Bring your kids and grandkids. Are there any more announcements?
Who adjourned?
Second.